Okay.
All right. Yeah. So for the
Nani King.
recording, okay. Yeah. So Nani can ping it too. For the recording, the topic is Giyuu versus Gyomei. I'm taking Gyomei. My opponent's taking Giyuu. Ryan Harrison Jr. is the judge. Ryan Harrison's a goat. Thank you for judging our debate. So Archie, do you want to go first if you want? Like, I feel like you're
Yeah,
just going. All right. Yeah.
yeah. I think there's good reason to think that that basically Giyuu's like relative to DKT in certain relevant ways,
Okay.
ways
Sure.
that when we reflect on those kinds of things. And then I want to make another reflection. I want to say that when we reflect on the series, it seems evident that Gyomei just obviously wasn't, given the fact that I think we have further reason to think that DKT was at least relative to being above Muzan. And then I also think that Kokushibo was below Muzan, such that Kokushibo is above Gyomei. So then just overall, it would just turn out that we have good reason to think Giyuu is above Gyomei.
All right. Yeah. So there are three parts of your scaling that like really pique my eye. So the first part obviously is the Giyuu relative to DKT. I actually don't have an issue with that. The second part of your claim is that DKT is probably above Muzan. I also probably don't have an issue with that either. That's actually fine for me. But what I probably do have an issue with is that that kind of scaling like puts him like way above Gyomei, like you said, and Gyomei wouldn't be able to like replicate something like that given his speeds being relative to Kokushibo. That's where I kind of disagree with you because I think the way Demon Slayer kind of works is like the speed gaps and like the relativity thing isn't that big in the verse, and I don't see an issue with someone at the level of Kokushibo and at the level of Muzan being strong enough or capable enough to also go toe to toe with DKT. So like I feel like that's kind of what's going to be in question here, like what we're going to be talking about.
I'm not even sure I know what you're saying.
Okay, so just for clarity, your claim is DKT above Muzan and Muzan's way above Kokushibo and therefore would be way above Gyomei, correct?
No, I'm just saying that we have good reason to think that KT is relative to Giyuu. And I think additionally we have good reason to think that DKT is at least relative to above Muzan. And then furthermore, I think we have good reason to think that Muzan is above Kokoshibu, in which I think we have good reason to think Kokoshibu is above Gyomei.
All right, that's fine. I don't have an issue with, like that kind of reasoning, but I don't think that reasoning proves Giyuu, or I don't think that's even a good reason to prove Giyuu is above Gyomei. And the reason for that is because although someone can be above someone, we obviously agree that they can still be relative, unless you're using some weird definition of what relativity is.
So I understand relativity to be a kind of relation between two objects or two people where some feature is negligibly maybe above or below to the point where we don't have any good reason to discern an actual difference. Do you understand relativity different from that?
Kind of. Like the way I see relativity is just the capacity to be able to react to something. Like at least in the manner of speed, like the capacity to be able to react and deflect attacks from an
Wait,
individual. I feel like
let
that's
me
what constitutes relativity,
let
and
me
that's kind
try
of
to.
standardly counted in like BSBW and stuff like that.
Well,
Like
I just I want to understand. You said
yeah,
relativity is the capacity to what?
like relativity, at least in a speed context, like is the capacity to react or like deflect an attack from someone like, at the bare minimum.
Capacity to attack or deflect. Yeah,
React.
that's just not what I mean by any
Okay,
means.
yeah. So like, so do you think it means like equality? Because I feel like that's an important
Mm,
term to establish here. Like what you mean
That's
by it.
also not what I think it means. I just
Okay.
defined it. I'll define it again. So I understand relativity to be a kind of relation between two objects or two people, where basically um, we implement some sort of relative relation whenever there's a feature that's being observed or looked out for, where the differences in these features are negligible, such that it isn't actually enough to detect a meaningful difference where we'd sufficiently put someone above or below.
Okay.
So
So,
rather, you might just simply say
so you,
they're relative. Now,
okay,
this
sure.
is
So,
separate from being equivalent because equivalence is a kind of relation in which we're establishing that there is no negligibility, that in fact the features
yeah,
just
I guess.
max out
I mean,
equivalent to the point where there isn't
I'm
any
not. I'm
relation. And
not
so
like.
I
Don't get me
do want
wrong.
to point out a distinction in that
Yeah,
real
yeah,
quick.
I get that. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not claiming like they're identical. Like, that's not like my claim at all. Like, I was just asking like, what I mean by equal. Like, sure. Like, okay, there's no like like there's no like vast or like difference that isn't like negligible. Like, all the actual differences are kind of ignorable. Is so you're saying that all like stats difference between Giyuu and DKT are negligible, correct?
Um, yeah, I guess like concerning speed and
Okay.
strength.
So okay, so like if we look at that, you'd understand the applications of that is like if they would run by side, like they would probably be equal in speed, or you'd have
No.
to no. How
Yeah,
come?
no. I
I'm confused how
recognize.
that wouldn't be negligible.
Yeah, I'll explain. So, when we say two people are equal in speed, we're typically just saying that when we look at the speed, like let's say it's let's imagine two objects are going let's say 2 miles per hour. Okay, so if they're going 2 miles every hour, it seems that we'd say they're running at equal speeds given the fact that those values are equivalent. Now, if one is simply going at 2 miles per hour and the other is going 2.5 miles per hour, but they're both sort of maxing each other out where they're actually accelerating at a pace where sometimes one is ahead of the other and sometimes one is behind the other, but they're both going at consistent paces over a certain amount of time, then at that point, I think we'd appropriately recognize their speeds as relative. But equivalence would imply that it's constant, such that there is no given difference or acceleration. So we don't want to say that, right?
Sure. Okay. I'm not seeing it exactly like that. Yeah. Like I'm not like gonna claim that.
Okay. What was your
Sure. So
question? And I'm
okay. Yeah. Okay.
confused.
Okay. That's not like an issue then. So you're gonna show me then that Giyuu is comparable to DKT to a point where like there's no actual difference that is not negligible. Correct? Do you understand? Like that's the claim and burden you're gonna be proving here, right? Like
Yeah,
in terms of speed, at least.
A, you already did accept that DKT can be relative to Giyuu, and then
But that was
B,
before we
you also
established the
not define.
definition. That was before we established the definition. I gave you what I meant by it, like verbatim, and then you said no, that's not what I mean
Uh,
by that, and then you said you mean
yeah,
this, and now like okay, like
if you
now
just have, yeah, if you have different concerns, now that's fine. I do want to clarify, anyways, that's not
yeah.
the claim. Like, presumably, if they are to be relative, there actually would be negligible differences, not an absence of negligible differences.
No, I'm saying there would be an absence of differences that are not negligible. That's what I said, and also I want to clarify like for Ryan, like what's happening here. Yeah, so Ryan, my opponent's kind of claiming that to be relative, there's no negligible difference between those two fighters. So like
That's the opposite of what I'm claiming,
So
which I
sorry,
just clarified as well.
there's a negligible difference. Yeah, I know. So there's a negligible difference between those two opponents, meaning like all
That's
the differences are kind
funnily,
of
funnily enough, that's actually not even a good analysis either, because
what?
technically
That's
there
what
can
you
still.
said.
Well, I'll explain why that's not a good analysis. So there could actually be two individuals in which one gaps the other in speed and still has some given features or sets of negligible differences. We
All
want to
right,
be sure on what differences we're
sure.
considering
Okay,
when
so
we're
in two
saying they're
individuals, hold
negligible.
on, my
So
bad. Okay,
I'm not gonna stop
let me
speaking
be
just
more
because you
specific
overtalk me. Sorry, I'm just gonna keep speaking. I don't know why you do this overtalking thing, but the
because
idea
like
is
you're kind of
if we have
rambling here.
two
Like I get the
objects in
point.
which their speed, so let's say they have, a given,
Oh
X
my
amount of
god.
speed and the other has an even far less amount of X of speed, there can still be negligible differences in other sorts of features,
But
whether that's given their physical composition or
but
whatever. Right. So we don't
contextually
want to
they
say that's my analysis. To be
but
clear,
oh
my
my god.
analysis, I know you're over talking me because you don't want me to be clear in my analysis, but I'm
No,
going
no,
to do it
I
anyways.
get your
The idea
analysis, but I feel
is
like
in terms,
the
sorry,
explanation is kind
we,
of drawn
can we
out
get
here.
some moderation? My opponent can't control himself.
I'm just saying, like your explanation is very
Is
drawn out
is
here. I
there
get your
any is
point.
there any
Oh my
moderation?
god, like I get the guy's point. Like the guy loves the
Is
sound of his
there,
own voice.
you get can you tell me what my point is
Yeah,
currently?
yeah. So we were talking about you trying to give an example of how someone could be faster, or like there could be a difference in speed, but he has other properties or other things that also just bridge that gap. But I was talking about,
No, you
yeah,
already
that's really what
lost.
you said. No, it's not. It's not a
So
lot. Like this is
so
really what you
now
said.
that we know that you don't understand what I'm
Hold on,
saying, could
Ryan.
I
Ryan, are you
continue?
listening? Wait, hold on one second. Ryan, are you listening?
So can we
Wait,
get
Ryan,
Yes,
are you
I'm
listening?
moderation
listening.
here?
All
I'm
right.
listening.
Can you repeat to me
Is it
what Archie
okay
said?
if we can get
I'm trying to.
moderation here,
Sure,
please?
I'm just talking to the
Is
judge
it
right now. I'm trying
okay
to get
if
some
we can get
clarification. I'm
moderation here,
talking to the judge
please?
right now. I am
Is it
talking to the
okay
judge
if we
right now.
can get
Let me get some
moderation
clarification. I'm
here,
Do y'all
talking.
both
please?
agree to moderation, bro?
Yes, I
I'm
agree to
talking to the judge
moderation.
right now. Let me get.
Zizo, do you
Okay,
agree to
okay, Zizu, do you
moderation?
agree to moderation, bro?
Yeah, I agree to moderation,
Okay,
but I just
so
want.
can you
Wait, I'm
please mute
talking
him
to the
since I
judge.
wasn't
I'm
done
talking to the
speaking?
judge. Give me a
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
okay,
being
second.
okay.
over
Who
talked.
is there?
All I'm
Okay, they
asking
both.
for right now is like,
So
yo,
They
Ryan,
both agree to moderation. Who is there that would like to
so
moderate?
Yeah,
Ryan,
because I got
you're
I
I
ain't
would
listening,
like
right?
moderate.
Tor to moderate, please.
Ryan.
Ryan,
Thank you. So now
can
that we
you repeat
agreed
back
on
to me what
Tor,
Archie
is it
said,
okay
please? Because
to
like,
mute him so
because
I can
I just think
continue
he's
my
lying,
analysis,
like
please?
completely.
Because he
Wait,
keeps
okay,
over
can y'all
talking me
chill,
for
bro? I'm
some
trying to get a
reason.
moderator. Ryan, can you
Yeah.
moderate? You're
No, he
muted, bro.
can't moderate.
I'm
Is it
on
okay,
phone, so
Infinity?
like moderating is already
No,
gonna
it's
be hard.
fine.
I'm gonna
That's
have to.
fine.
Bro,
Is
bro,
it okay
that's
if you
fine.
can
Just
moderate,
I gave you
Infinity?
permission to moderate, bro. You said what?
Can somebody not do it? Can I still do it?
Yeah,
Shit.
he's
Hurry.
Infinity. Ryan is saying he currently can't. So I'm asking, is it okay
Uh,
if you could moderate?
I'm lagging, but I mean I could try.
Okay, thank you. Could I please finish my analysis that I was
I
interrupted
was just
from?
asking the
So
judge because you kind of, I
sorry.
think
All right,
I
he
but okay,
lied.
apologize.
Zizo, can you just ask him after, bro?
I
Yeah,
just think he
he actually
lied. Like,
can. Is it okay if I
Everyone
continue?
just hold on. Just let I go, Archie.
Thank you. So now that he's done interrupting me and done crying, the idea just is, so you were wrong in that as well. We aren't talking about bridging any gaps. You came up with that because you misheard me 4 different times in a row. The idea is, right, we can still have negligible difference, even if someone is extraordinarily faster or extraordinarily slower. We're using relative, and the way negligibility plays into the term relative here is we're just simply saying that if 2 objects are relative in speed, we're just saying that they're at a point in speed in which one could potentially be faster and one could potentially be slower, but the difference just wouldn't be such that you'd be able to call one relevantly faster or relevantly slower, right? So I gave the example of 2 objects. For example, if they both objects happen to be accelerating, let's say, I don't know, 2 miles per hour or something like that, well, it seems like one could go slower than the other and one could go faster than the other temporarily because they are accelerating, right? They're not at a constant speed, or nor are they at rest. So they can be relative to each other in acceleration, and there could be negligible difference there. And yet at the same time, right, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be equivalent, nor does that always be negligible difference, because there could be a point at which they both actually hit the exact same speed, and yet they would still be considered relative under this definition. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Right now, I'm just concerned with what point of my scaling or my chain scaling if you have any issues with. What's up? Oh, never mind. That's just Ryan. But yeah, you can speak now.
all right, yeah, mute him, please. So I'm gonna wait till he's muted.
Yo, can
Yo,
somebody else
okay,
mod?
so like, at first, I wanted to ask Ryan just for clarification on where Ryan's at. Ryan, do you understand Archie's argument? Did he just fucking leave? Dog, what the fuck?
Yo, can somebody else moderate, bro?
Yo, I can moderate, man. Just give me
All
a
right,
go.
so
Alright,
I can
yo,
moderate. Just
yo,
give me a go.
Ryan,
it's up to me to do it. Oh.
yo, Ryan.
Yes.
Okay, were you listening to Archie's argument?
Yeah.
Okay, and because I want to make sure like I'm on the same pace and I'm not being delusional, I'm being gaslit here, and I'm just gonna ask like just for clarification, Archie's argument, right? And like you can like I want you like to correct me if I'm wrong, and like we could just talk about it just for a little bit. Archie's argument here is that there could be a case where someone is like he said this word, extraordinarily faster or slower than the other guy while still having cases of relativity. And he tried to give an example with acceleration, where like someone can like accelerate at 2 miles per hour and can be faster or slower. Is that Archie's
Oh wait,
argument?
my bad. Wait, hold on. Bless you, thank you, no problem. Wait, Archie said in chat that he doesn't agree to talking sticks. So what type of moderation do y'all want?
He doesn't agree to the talking stick?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
so I'm fine with having like just one of us be muted whenever one is like aggressively over talking or like having Asperger's in like
Bless you,
Zizo.
thank you, no problem.
But I just don't want the muting to be as in like just whenever someone gets a chance to speak, their interlocutor is muted.
all right.
Also, by the
I
way,
mean
Ryan,
Okay,
that's not.
all right.
Also, by the way, Ryan, that's not my point. By the way, but I'll clarify after he's done.
I just want Ryan to answer then, like, because like
Bless you,
either
thank
I'm
you, no
delusional
problem.
here, or you're just not like communicating your point effectively. Like Ryan, can you explain like what you understood of Archie's point, like so you can progress? Because I just
You
think he's
talking
lying.
about the speed and how
Yeah,
what's it
like
called? You know,
the relativity shit.
but when I see from the relativity, he says we can't have like I can't pronounce that word correct. My bad. But I would say it want to be such a difference in speed to a point where it can. eh.
Wait, there could be a point, like there could be a difference in speed to a point where that's what relativity means.
No, it was called the relativity is that one can be higher or greater than the other, but you want to be like another difference to a point where it's suitable to everything. It just saying one can be faster. All they can, but it would really make a difference at all.
One
From
can
what
be
I
fast
see,
and it wouldn't make a difference, right?
it wouldn't be like a significant difference
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
overall.
that's what he means by negligible. And Archie, that's your argument too, correct? Like that's what I said.
So that's not an argument. That's a definition. That's like I don't know why you keep saying that. You're like really confused. No points being argued. I'm just clarifying what I mean by relativity.
Yeah.
And then B, yeah, no, not
Mhm.
sure. There's still an issue. B, you
Yep.
misunderstood for the fifth time in a row.
Me
I'm
and Ryan
gonna I'm gonna
misunderstood. Me and the
Wait,
clarify
judges.
wait. Can
again.
you tell us?
Sorry. So someone mute the dog because he
No,
keeps
hold
interrupting me.
on. No.
Sorry.
Okay,
Thank
Zizo,
you.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
I got you.
So
I
the
got you.
idea is I'm just gonna help you out with this because for some reason you just keep getting confused by this idea. So listen,
Mhm.
imagine we have two cars, right? And
Yeah.
imagine these two cars, they start at a zero. By the way, Ryan didn't misunderstand me. He clarified. You got mistaken. But to be clear, imagine there's two cars. They both
Hmm.
start at zero, right? So at t0, they're at a speed of zero. Okay. Now imagine they accelerate when they're at T1 to let's say 2 miles. Yeah, I guess let's say 2 miles within an hour. They accelerate. So at T1 at 1 hour, they get to 2 miles. Now imagine in between their distance, right? How's they're accelerating to 2 miles that very hour? It's imagine sometimes one of the cars lag behind the other, and then at other points that car goes ahead, right? But not at a point where one of their accelerations will differ so much that one actually hits 2 miles within 2 hours or 2 miles within 30 minutes. No, they're both still going to hit 2 miles at two or
They're
at
both
one
gonna
hour,
hit two
right?
miles, and
Yeah,
not the cost
exactly.
of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like they're both presumably going to hit, 2 miles at that given hour, even though their speeds may differ a little bit, right? And what that tells us is that the speed difference is not so big, right, to the point where it's going to differ their overall speed. That's why we might want to say they're relative, right? Because when we actually measure the changes in their velocity, it's not so much of a big difference to where the overall acceleration is changing, right? Beyond maybe like very, 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 very small numbers. So that's the point, right? What Zizo said that was wrong, which we can watch on rec if needed, in case he's confused, was he initially said what I was saying is that presumably people can remain relative even if one's speed is super or extraordinarily greater. Wrong. I said that one can still have negligible differences even if one's speed is extraordinarily greater in other sorts of features, right? Not relativity. Okay, so now that I hope we're clear on that, I hope we can move on since I was just defining relativity, by the way, not even giving an argument. Go ahead.
Okay. I feel like I'm being very like aggressively like moderated here. Like I don't know like about all of that, but yeah, I mean we're talking about relativity and speed here. So like, I don't know why we're talking about other assumptions when we're talking about extraordinary gaps, and that's what I
That was the
assumed.
first point y'all made, though.
Yeah.
Is that
I
he
mean,
believed that DKT is relative
Literally.
to Musa.
I know, Ryan. I'm just talking about like the definition of like relativity right now because we clearly have like different definitions, and I want to establish this definition. So your argument here is that I mean, yes, like it could be the case that acceleration can fluctuate just like there and there a little bit, but it's kind of negligible, and because of that, they would still both hit 2 miles in an hour, but they could still like just lag behind a little bit, and that's what you mean by that like relativity, right?
Sure.
Correct.
They both
Okay.
will achieve two
Okay.
miles.
Okay. Yeah, I get you. But like, and the
Yeah.
speed would be like just completely negligible. So if that's the case, I want okay. Then
Hmm.
I want you to justify the first part. Then Giyuu being relative to DKT to a point where the speed gaps would be negligible.
But
Sure.
I oh
Hmm?
Yeah,
What
sure.
you
Let
say,
me
Ryan?
get the scale.
Wait, my bad. The judge was asking something, Ryan.
no, I was gonna ask him, but
Because
never
yeah, because
mind.
just for clarity, I agreed at the beginning because I thought like we were going on like the standard like account, right? At least what I thought the standard account of relativity was. But then he gave his definition. Now I don't agree with that anymore. So yeah,
Wait,
and
this isn't going to be like an important question because I don't, I'm not someone who thinks that definitions could be wrong or right. I just
no,
think there's a
obviously I
matter
agree
of
with you.
conceptual difference. So, but I am kind of curious. Wait, do you think my definition of relativity is like uncommon or like not used by like
No.
laymen?
I mean, I'm not gonna argue for that. I mean, like relativity in like a power scaling sense is already like unconventional itself. So I'm not gonna like really debate you on that. Like your definition could be fine. Like I'm going under your kind of your definition. Like again, I don't think definitions are necessarily propositional, so we're not gonna argue on that. So and you think that the difference in speed between DKT and Muzan is not negligible, correct?
DKT and Muzon. I didn't comment on the difference in speed between Muzon and DKT.
You okay? So because here's what I'm confused about. The way your argument, or at least what I'm assuming, is how it works is that DKT and Giyuu should be above Muzan, Kokoshibu, and Gyomei to a point where the speed is not negligible, correct?
What? No, the speed point was just referring to pretty much just DKT and Giyuu.
Yeah, okay. And then you're going to argue that DKT and Giyuu are relative in speed, and you're going to map that over to Gyomei, correct? That's what I'm assuming you're going to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, exactly. And I'm telling you then, are you going to do that by claiming that DKT and Giyuu are relative where their speed gap is negligible, but the speed gap between DKT to Muzan is not negligible, and to Kokoshibo it's not negligible, and to Gyomei it's not negligible?
Well, it's already obvious that Gyomei is a bit like slower than like just like Giyuu and stuff like that, just based off their interactions and fights. I mean, do you
I,
disagree with that?
I actually kind of disagree with that. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, like that's kind of something like we should go into talk about, but
That's
that's what
fine.
I'm assuming your claim is going to be, right? Like, and you're going to start it off by scaling Gyomei. Sorry, my bad, not Gyomei. DKT above Muzan to a point where it's not negligible, correct?
Wait, I'm like getting my scan. What do you say?
Yeah. So I was just asking you. I'm guessing then you're going to scale DKT above Muzan to a point where the speed gap is not negligible, correct?
Wait, sorry, I was sending this in chat. This is the scan I'm talking about, by the way. But wait, say that one more time.
Okay. So you're saying that the speed gap between DKT and Muzan is not negligible, correct?
I didn't comment on the speed between them.
That's part of your scaling. Of course you did.
Are you autistic or?
No, that's how your scaling should be following. Otherwise, your scaling wouldn't go through.
Let's
I think that
observe.
kind of falls back to the other point about
The nigga
relativity.
ghosted, bro.
Yeah, it's
Like,
fine. I mean,
I'm just
let's
genuinely
go.
confused
So,
here.
what point of the scaling do you think asserts that DKT and Muzon speed is not negligible?
Because if it's the case that the scaling was
Because
negligible, then you would have to translate it to Muzan and Gyomei also not being negligible.
I,
And
I,
hold on,
did you hear
I'm
the
not
question
finished.
I just
I'm sorry,
asked
I'm
you?
sorry, I'm not finished. I'm not
Oh,
finished.
sure.
Thank you. So you would have to translate that over from Muzan to Kokoshibo to Gyomei. And if it's the case that all the speed differences are negligible, then you don't have any scaling to put Gyomei noticeably faster than slower than Giyuu. Yeah, that's what I'm done about. Yeah, I'm done. Can you answer?
Okay. So now that he's done, the question I asked you before you dodged it was, what part of my scaling insisted that Muzon and DKT speed was non-negligible? Do you have an answer to that question?
I just gave you the answer.
Oh, so where in the chain scaling was it established?
I'm just telling you, like that's what I'm assuming you're gonna do. Otherwise, you don't have
Oh,
a scale. That's literally my answer. Like I'm saying, like you're not doing that because I'm kind of confused here. If you're not gonna do that, what's the point of having Muzan in the chain scale? Hello?
oh,
Basically, I think he's trying to
he's
ask you what's
done.
the relativity between one another. I
No,
think.
no, I know that was the previous question he asked. So the current question that is being asked that's on the table that still hasn't received an answer, what part of my scaling insist that DKT and Muzon speed is non-negligible? I'm gonna repeat the
I just
two
answered the
paths.
question three times.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm
I
gonna
just repeat that
repeat.
answer three
Oh,
times.
sorry. Okay, maybe he doesn't need to be muted. I think he stopped. Okay, cool. So the idea is the past two answers you've given, which everyone here was willing to witness, is you just told me because I'm going to assume that's what you're going to do via XYZ. That's not answering where within the scaling that's his. That's telling me a
The fact
psychological report. Sorry. Actually, can we just mute him? That's like the third time he's done
the
that.
fact you have
Yeah, I
Muzan in the
got you.
Sorry.
scale,
Can
like
we?
what are we
Can
talking
Okay,
we?
about?
okay. I'm not gonna
Sorry.
lie. I'm not gonna
Okay,
lie.
wonderful.
I'm just gonna ask Archie this, so we just
Yeah, go
like
ahead.
this is very unnecessary. Can you just explain to us what's the relativity between one another?
Between him.
DKT and Muzan to Coco Shiba, I believe that's what he's trying to ask. Or
Oh,
Wait,
I'm
what's
not
the debate?
commenting. Yeah, I'm not commenting on the speed between them. So the relationship between them with the scaling, which is what I clarified at the beginning, but Zizo didn't track that, unfortunately. was the fact that I think one actually is just more durable and much more stronger, right? That's why Duma or Kage initially asked me in the beginning, hey, do you want the scan where it stated that DKT is stronger? Now, he didn't hear that because he's not very good at tracking. But for you, Ryan, since you are good at tracking, Ryan, that's what I'm saying, to be clear.
Yo,
Now,
Archie, is it true that's your insurance?
yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm a
Hey,
liberal with blue. I'm a
hey, y'all
liberal with
boys, be
blue hair and
quiet.
stuff like that.
Who does man
No,
think
it's
he is
true.
in
I'm a
Batman?
liberal with blue hair and whatnot. But yeah, now I'm gonna explain anywho, even though we now that should already be obvious why you were mistaken. I'm gonna explain why you were mistaken anyways, just so the judge and just so recording can be clear. What your mistake was you initially answered, hey, I'm gonna assume you're gonna do XYZ. You're reporting your psychology to me and telling me what you think I'm gonna eventually do with my scaling. I wasn't asking you what am I gonna do with my scaling, nor was I asking you about what you're assuming. What I asked you was, what point in my scaling that I verbatim give to you can you point to in my scaling where that's established that the speed is non-negligible, or where we're even commenting about the speed between DKT and Muzon? You failed to do that twice, either because A, you don't actually have a point in my scaling where that happened, or B, because you misunderstood the question. But if it is B, you just simply misunderstood the question, I still would like you to point out where in the scaling is the stated. Now, if it's A, you just simply can admit that you actually don't have that point. I think we can move on from this point, and then we can further go into whether the speed between DKT and Giyuu were relative, which I've already sent a scan in the chat reporting, which you initially asked me for, right? But if anything else is needed clarification on, you can ask. But yeah, you're just confused on this point.
So go ahead, I got you.
Yeah, sure. Asking me to move on after you put 3 burdens on me is clearly the tactics of a coward. So, like, I'm not gonna move on, and I'm gonna address the burdens you put on me. So, for one, the first part of what you were asking me about, where does your scale insist Muzan and DKT should be having in like a non-negligible difference? The fact that you put Muzan in the scaling in a clear speed scale, you're scaling Giyu's speed, and because of that, you putting him in a speed scale should mean that you're trying to scale him above Muzan or above Gyomei. You're trying to get that connection there. So given the fact that you have Muzan there, the point should be some form of assertive scaling to get him above. Otherwise, you wouldn't have Muzan in the scaling. You just scale DKT right above Gyomei. But clearly, since you're doing that, that's what you're doing. If you're not doing that, that could be the case. Yeah, that's fine. That's what I just assumed. So based on the context, you can clarify and say, yeah, that's not what I'm going to do. And I'm like, okay, fine. But then your scaling kind of doesn't even make sense here. The second part was you were talking about Muzan's durability and his AP and his strength is what's below DKT. But that, again, doesn't make much sense to me because I'm still confused here because you're scaling Giyu's speed because you just provided a speed feed in chat. Like, hello? I'm kind of confused here. So maybe you can
No,
clarify for me. Hmm?
from what it seems
No,
like, it's
we
like.
know you're confused, man. It's
No,
good.
let me answer my
Oh
question.
wait,
It's
it
fine.
sounds like
Bless you, thank you, no
from what
problem.
I recollect, it came from Giyuu being relative to Muzan. Muzan, I mean Giyuu relative DKT, DKT relative Muzan, Muzan relative
No,
to
this isn't
Coca
gonna
Shiba.
help him because the reason why
But
this isn't gonna help him is because he still thinks it's a speed scale, right? The second
I
So
know
he
that
hears
because
it,
the
just
reason why I
hold on,
went
hold
in
on.
speed is about.
Just for
Wait,
clarity.
no, wait, hold on.
Just for
Because
clarity.
the whole point about it, because y'all started arguing about what is relativity like. Is a speed relative? Then y'all went on the definition of
yeah.
relativity.
No,
Then later on,
it's fine.
then later
It's fine. I
on,
could just
Archie
clarify.
said he's not arguing about speed right now. He haven't gotten into his
No,
Hold
no,
scaling.
no,
on.
no, no,
Then
no.
Art,
you
hold
was
on.
on.
That's
Wait.
not
I have
even
a
the issue.
question. I
Though,
have a question.
funnily
I have a
enough,
very important
the
question. I
main
have a
issue
question.
is I don't know why he's over talking me.
Because I have a
That's not
question.
the
I have a
issue. The main
clarifying
issue is
question.
just
I have a
I still
question.
don't know why he's over talking. Thank you. I really have no clue about this, but the main issue is this, Ryan. Right? See, you're aware, Ryan, that my entire scale it's actually relating more to strength and durability, but we were merely had a question of relativity in the beginning because of
Yes,
the
I know
fact
about
that he
speed.
was concerned. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so
Like
we're
he was
not talking about
confused
Yes.
what
speed,
I meant.
okay?
So what I was I don't know why he unmuted to interrupt.
I'm asking a
That's not
clarifying
gonna look good on record.
question.
Wait, sorry. Can I finish my sentence? Oh, thank you. Okay, so
You
basically they
didn't agree to
admitted to
talking stick.
right.
Hello?
I
Yo,
wait.
Ace,
Can I
man.
speak? Oh, thank you.
I
Thank you.
got you.
Maze.
I'm doing my job.
Cause thank you. Like you guys got to save me, dude. I'm just a coward and I'm
I
running.
got you.
Wait. Why did he leave the debate? Wait.
I don't know.
No, like the whole. Cause I have it written down because after you made a claim that DKT is relative to Muzan, y'all went on about what y'all mean by relativity. Like, is it like a relative and speed gap? Then y'all talking about what is relativity. Then after that, you say you're gonna engage in your scaling because the initial thing was, what do y'all mean by relativity? Well, he asked you about the speed. That's what happened. You didn't went in your scaling yet, from what I
Exactly.
wrote down.
Yeah, exactly. I only mentioned relativity because he was clarifying what I meant by relativity, and just so we can go into
Yeah.
other cases. But and I only sent that scan in chat relating to it because he asked me to prove that Giyuu and DKT were relative in speed, which was one of my claims. But my claims about speed relativity didn't relate to DKT and Muson. I think that actually DKT is just significantly stronger than Muson, which I mean most people argue anywho. But yeah, I don't know why he left, by the way. So I just want to clarify, he didn't get muted because because he was unmuted. So it wasn't an issue with Talking Stick, by the way. I still don't agree to Talking Stick. He got muted because he interrupted. To be clear about. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because y'all
speed
never
up.
got to the scaling yet. That's like the whole thing I got written down. Y'all never went to the scaling yet. Y'all talking about
Yeah,
speed gap is still difference. Then y'all talking about Muzan. Like, did he ask you, is Muzan both Kokoshibo and speed? Then you talking about, then y'all went on about the speed of relativity and how it wouldn't really matter if it was just that part and overall. It could be, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Dude, tell him to join back because that was actually entertaining.
And I took notes, bro. Just like, bro, like I took notes, but maybe his phone died or something.
No, bro, it's because he
Oh, he said
he
he's
thinks
not
it's
joining back. He
biased.
said he's not debating.
Okay, okay, frick.
But
So to clarify what they want, right? They want so they're not gonna do like talking sick where the other guy can't talk at all, but it's just that like obviously
Only
if
like questions are allowed, basically. Like,
yeah, so just like clarification and shit like that. Okay,
So
well, I
let's
mean
jump. Let's jump.
if a clarifying question kind of like I don't know, it depends. Like if it delves too much into like an argument, right? That can't like let the guy progress his response, then I feel like depending on that, I might just like mute the guy,
yeah,
let him finish off, and then so like the other person could just include what they have a problem with in their actual response, if you get what I mean.
yeah.
Okay.
This is the only second. This is the second debate. Holy shit! What's the main event?
Not you.
Must
Uh,
be
Yeah, so
Infinity versus fucking Speed. I'm not
oh
joking.
my. Who's 007, bro?
Niggas are trolling.
All right,
Bro,
yeah.
give me a
the
speed
point, the
debate.
point right now, I'm not gonna lie to progress. Is just let Archie start his scaling about the
Yeah,
durability.
yeah. So like, you're not okay, Archie. Just for clarification, you're not scaling speed here. You're scaling durability and AP for Giyuu.
Right now, as he's scaling, he said he's is doing durability AP at this moment to begin his
All
scaling.
right. Okay, that's okay. Well, then sure, we can get into that.
to be clear, the only relevant speed plays in here is just if you were asking about concerns between whether DKT and Giyuu was faster, because I do have additional comments on that, but my actual scale only concerns strength and durability.
Okay, so you're just gonna be arguing that Giyuu is demonstrably more durable and stronger than Gyomei, correct?
That's right.
Okay, sure. We can get into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you can start off with your scaling that DKT. Sure.
Yeah. Well, like, yeah. It's so. It sounded like you had some sort of issue or contention earlier with like Giyuu being like relative in speed to DKT. I sent like a scan. I didn't know if you wanted to reply to it. I'll like resend it
Uh,
again.
oh, of Giyuu reacting to DKT. Like,
Um, I'm not sure if this is like a reaction more than just clashing. Maybe, but yeah.
hold on. Let me see it because
I mean,
Was
it can be implied since like the above scan is him about to hit that like lightning guy or whatever. I'm not too sure like
Where's the
how
scan?
it's just in the general chat. I like
Uh,
replied to it. No, yeah,
uh,
now that is a possible interpretation. I'm not too sure if my intuitions fit with that, but either way, yeah, just the general theme.
I mean, not like the way I'm looking at it, it doesn't seem like a clash. It just seems like he's deflecting some of the whips, which I'm kind of confused here on how that would entail some form of relativity, especially your definition of relativity, where to the point where um Giyuu would be negligibly like sorry, like the speed difference between Giyuu and Tundra would be negligible. Because I'm
Yeah,
looking at this, it
so
just seems like he's throwing a projectile at him and like he's just swatting away that projectile.
he's I don't see any projectile being thrown.
I mean, the whips are what I consider a projectile here.
You think the whips are projectiles?
I mean, I don't really care about the semantics. He's just throwing out an attack here, like he's swatting it away. Like that's kind of the main
Yeah,
point
if
here.
you yeah, okay, so if that's just what you mean, typically
Yeah,
that's how I understand like clashes, at least a species of that kind of interaction. One of the species does happen to be a clash. So I mean, then at that point we might just have like different interpretations of either what a clash is or what it actually means to swat away something. Like my idea of a clash typically seems to be just when two objects interact with each other at a force in which there's like friction being considered.
sure.
Um, or there's just some sort of like push as well being considered in which obviously there's an equal and opposite exchange, like when weapons smash against each other or when
Yeah,
words smash. Yeah, that's my idea. So do
yeah.
you
So,
disagree that that's what's happening here?
I mean, I don't really disagree with what's happening here. Where like they're like clashing with some form of weapon, like they're like exchanging blows. Like if that's what you mean by that, I don't really disagree with that. Like that's fine. Also, I'm gonna clarify that for Ryan. Yeah, that is fine. But I do disagree with the entailment of it, which is that it's some form of relativity in terms of AP or durability, at least, or like in speed, at least, or whatever you're arguing here. Because there's a few issues. For one, we've already like I also like show this to Ryan too. Ryan, we know that pr- whips and extra body parts on demons are not always necessarily the same speed as the demon themselves and aren't even the fastest whips on their bodies. The best example of this is Muzan. Muzan, as we know, his back whips are stated verbatim multiple times to be much slower than his thigh whips. And bless you, and thank you, and no problem. And because of that, I'm still a little bit skeptical here on how Archie's going to prove his point because of the fact that the clash here doesn't necessarily prove that kind of relativity unless you can prove somehow that Tandra's whips are on par with Tandra himself or even his strongest body part in his anatomy.
Well, I mean, first I don't even know like what reason there is to believe that like the whips themselves would be slower than the person moving. Do you have anything that like purports that? Or
I mean, yeah, like that's why I gave you the Muzan example. That's why I was telling you it's pretty coherent, pretty rational, given there's other examples. And given that Tanjiro has the blood of Muzan, don't you think that makes it more coherent and rational and believable to be the case?
I don't I don't know what you mean by more coherent. Coherent just means it's capable of being understood.
Okay, my bad.
But
Okay, not coherent,
but
just rational. Like just
but
it's within the realm of belief. Like it's not some like wild like claim I'm making, given there's some
if
form of
you're
foundation for it.
if you're asking if it's plausible, but being merely plausible doesn't give any reason to accept it. So the reason why I have doubts against that, and the reason why I disagree with something like that, is because typically when we're trying to establish some general principle or some regularity or norm, typically these norms are established, right, when we have some given set of controlled, independent, and dependent variables where we can measure and see what sorts of factors affect this kind of instance of happening, whether it be his body mass, his weight, his proportions, whether it be his cognition, the kind of attack he's trying to deliver. These sorts of features. I don't think that there's ever been such a robust and deep analysis where we can establish that this is just a convention or general regularity or principle as far as demons goes. I can grant that maybe there are instances in which we see cases of this being portrayed in which that is more so just some sort of grant anyway, because it's like I actually don't know if we have good reason to believe that claim alone. But even if I were to grant that claim, yeah, it just doesn't provide any sort of good inductive support for this being some sort of general rule utilized. And I think additionally, even when considering that the fact that he has Muzan's blood or whatever in him, I don't I actually don't even see the relevance of that at all. So that'd be my three concerns.
Sure. Yeah. So like I feel like the last point is kind of the most important point here, and I'm going to talk about that, and then we can kind of progress from there because I feel like that's the kind of the more important point, and like there is kind of that relevance because it's not like when I say like, oh, he has the blood of Muzan, it's not like how like a demon just becomes a demon just by getting a little bit of the blood. He has all of Muzan's blood, and his abilities seem to be pretty similar to Muzan in terms of how he projects out whips, and that's kind of what he does on panel. So I feel like it is kind of believable here to like infer that his abilities are similar to Muzan. I get you that like there isn't really like enough data to prove like this is a regularity or a norm, but I'm not really going for a regularity or a norm here. I'm trying to just establish a similarity and a connection between Muzan and DKT specifically. So I'm actually kind of just going to dismiss the first 2 points based off of that because that's not my claim. As long as I establish that relationship between Muzan and DKT, I do think it is not only plausible but also pretty rational given the basis that I'm giving you, which is that one, his attacks are very similar to Muzan's. Two, his anatomy is kind of similar to Muzan's too, given like for example the shape of his eyes and stuff like that. And three, um, the manner like in which he attacks and like just the compositions like pretty similar to Muzan given the whips and stuff. So yeah, I just think because of that, like we can also like infer like Muzan's anatomy to that, where like the back whips are like demonstrably slower than like those are the thigh whips, like Muzan's like attacking speed and stuff. So yeah, if you have any contentions with that, you can give them.
Yeah, I have like 4 or 5. I mean, so like one, you did say initially that um, actually considering the instances in which this applies to Muzan and other sorts of demons, like you even asked Ryan a question at the beginning, isn't this some sort of thing and feature of demons where their parts are generally faster than them? So I mean, if you're no longer offering some sort of like induction to say that we generally like see a lot of particular instances of this thing happening to where we can rationally infer that this is actually some sort of general convention. If you're actually just more so saying now that because of certain features of Muzan that are shared with Giyuu, or not with Giyuu, but with DKT, that'd be the reason we have to infer it. I think that's also like just bad reasoning. So like we actually, yeah, to address like the 3 considerations you made. So I'm not really sure what them having a similar body composition is going to do. Like I think that's actually the most like relevant point out of the 3 points that you made to that. And even that one, I'm not even too sure what that's doing, because I understand that it's possible that they can have such biological features, but still have disparities in strength and speed and other sorts of things. And I think that's supported by the fact that we literally get multiple statements quoting Muzan, or sorry, not Muzan, but DKT, of being what's it called, like stronger. There's also other disparities. For example, one being able to not have to avoid the sun and whatnot, and even Muzan making statements of him wanting to surpass him. You know, maybe that's not referring to speed, maybe that's not referring to strength, whatever consideration that may be referring to, that at least gives us some sort of reason to think that they actually, just simply because they have similar physical configurations, actually doesn't give reason to think that this particular feature of them is going to be like identical or even similar. We'd actually need independent reason to think that. Your second point about the eye shape, I'm not even too sure how to respond to something like that, because I'm not even too sure what that's arguing for. I mean, it's obviously logically possible that they can have the same eye shape and have disparities in speed. It's physically possible. It's epistemically. It's possible in pretty much every domain that this can happen. So, if that's the consideration, I don't see how it's more likely, given the fact that they have similar eyes, that they will have similar speeds or speed disparities between their literal attacks and their whip attacks, right? I don't really see how that's being supported. So, for those 2 points, and the third point, I literally just think that's equivalent to the first, so I'm not going to address that. But yeah, I think for those 2 points, we need independent reason outside of physical characteristics that would imply that they have this relative speed in these areas.
Yeah, so I'm gonna clarify my points for Ryan again because I just don't want this to be confused or something. I'm not affirming or asserting any claims here. This isn't my scaling. I'm just putting into question his reasoning in this scaling. I'm explaining to him how this isn't necessarily the case, like what you're trying to prove. Like this scan doesn't necessarily prove your claim or your conclusion. And I'm giving him this justification. All I'm doing here, and also this is for the audience, all I'm doing for my skepticism is just giving a rational basis on why I think I could be skeptic here. And I'm not affirming anything. Yeah, you're right. It could definitely be the case that they have similar anatomy or similar body composition, but it could be the case that there could be like high disparities in speed or high disparities in the whips or something like that. That's perfectly fine. But I'm not claiming that there is or there isn't. I'm just explaining how I'm a little bit confused because we already have an example of a character who's very strong in the series who has massive disparities between the thigh whips and the back whips and just his regular body. And all I'm asking is based upon that, you need some form of extra step or some form of independent evidence to justify the case on why it would be the case that Tandra's backflips here would scale to like his entire like anatomy, his like conventional speed or something like that, or like why there isn't any disparities with the speed. And that's why I'm kind of telling you here, this doesn't really prove relativity in terms of AP, it doesn't prove relativity in terms of strength, it doesn't prove relativity in terms of speed, it doesn't really prove relativity with anything unless you prove that extra horn. And I just don't think you've done that. And again, like I'm not affirming anything or I'm not proving anything. All I'm just doing right now is just putting that skepticism and giving the rationale behind that skepticism. So yeah, like I just confused. And like about the eye things, all I was doing with that was just showing you like the similarities on why like they're connected and interlinked, rather than like him just being a random demon. That's literally all I was trying to do. Like I'm just telling you that Tandra's not a random demon. Like when you look at other demons, they just look way different than what Muzan looks like. And I'm just telling you that, given that they look pretty similar, that's kind of like just extra rationale on why I kind of believe that they do have those similarities. I'm not saying that it's like a necessity claim. I'm not saying it's like an absolute claim or it's what I believe. I'm just giving that skepticism and the rationale behind that skepticism. That's all.
I mean, I'm not. I'm being completely honest. Like, I'm not even trying to throw jabs. That like half of that was just like a pivot, just like a blatant burden shift from giving any sort of independent reason for why, if they have physical similarities, especially in the particular ways you mentioned, that additionally would give reason for us to believe that they're going to have similar speed disparities between their whips and their physical things. Like, I think you
Okay,
completely dodged giving.
somebody
What
had
was that,
just
Ryan?
called me. Somebody had just called me. Can y'all repeat the last 1 minute? Like the last
Okay,
30
good.
seconds.
Okay,
30
wait, hold on.
seconds.
What part were you like? Did you get cut out on?
Um, I think it was Blue was Archie talking
What was he
about what's
saying?
called.
Oh, because I spoke between what Archie was saying, so I don't know. Like
Oh,
I can repeat myself, and then
just
Archie.
I had got it. It was you talking about you being skeptical. We'll start at that part,
Like
and then you talking about
you also like how like I gave my rationale behind like skepticism. It's not some like basis skepticism, right? Like
about the eyes. Yeah, I heard all of that.
just like the
What did
anatomy, like
Archie
theory.
say? Archie. Oh, whatever Archie had said. 'Cause I heard everything you said. It just went
All
Archie
right.
started.
Yeah. Oh, I was in the middle of my response. I was saying that I think you completely pivoted and dodged. I think that you made multiple claims. Very obviously, people in chat and on the recording could obviously tell. In fact, you referenced one of the claims you asserted in your response, but like funnily enough, but no, like you obviously made multiple claims. You didn't give any independent support for why, if they have these like similar physical appearances or whatever, that or like physical configurations, that gives additional reason to think that they're going to have the same physical or speed disparities between their like whips and the physical thing. I think you completely dodged that. I think like even additionally, you actually attempted to like pivot and put further claims on me by like claiming that I was making some further additional claim about the whips and their like conventional speeds, just as far as like their bodies independent of the whip skates. Because I actually just consider the whips to be a part of their bodies. I consider that to be a part of the anatomic configuration. So I'm not even too sure what that point was also getting at. But on either end, funnily enough, I can directly respond to that and address that because like I think like a panel beforehand, we actually see Giyuu grabbing someone out of the way prior to what's his face Tanjiro like beginning to grab him, right? Um, and I'll send that like in the chat without using his whip. By the way, he like blatantly intercepted his hit to save that person. Which additionally, I think that he wouldn't be able to do given the fact that Tanjiro was faster, because obviously that means that Tanjiro's arm would cover more distance in a quicker time than Giyuu would have to get there. And I think that if Giyuu was slower than Tanjiro, that would also lead to a consequence of Giyuu passing over that distance just simply within a slower measurement of time compared to when Tanjiro actually went to hit him, right? Because that's just kind of how speed works. So I think from this, that's also just giving even further more independent and additional reason why clearly they're relative, even without considering the whips. But I think even if you were to ignore the scan I just sent and just consider the whips, yeah, I think you just didn't respond or give any consideration for that. But yeah.
Yeah, so I have a few responses for that. That wasn't really a pivot. That was kind of my claim just from the initial point, which is just to justify that for you. And you've made a few claims here. Like the first, actually, kind of. Wait, hold on. Can you repeat the claim before the arm swatting thingy? Was it just the like they have the same anatomy? That was it, right? There wasn't anything else
No,
that I heard. Hmm?
no, I wasn't even saying they have the same anatomy. That
So
the
no,
whole
like the whips,
anatomic
like yeah, the whips are part of like the
anatomic.
anatomic composition. Yeah, like that was it, right? Like there wasn't anything between that. So just those 3 points. So okay, yeah. So about that, like I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that Muzan also had the exact same thing, like where the whips are part of his anatomic composition, just further building that relationship. And all I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to show you that if two characters are like anatomically pretty similar in their bodily composition, and one's work this way, there could be some reason or rationale on why like I would be skeptical on why Tanjiro just wouldn't work in this way. And then here, I actually don't think Tanjiro like fully like finalized his evolution and reached his strength point where like he is above Muzan here because for one, we see he gets burned by the sun here right after. So clearly he hasn't like fully like either A, he hasn't fully absorbed the blood, or he hasn't fully absorbed himself, or hasn't
Oh,
reached
this
like the
is
right
like
state.
a new whole argument.
Yeah,
Before
yeah,
you
because he just
do,
yeah, he just like presented a new scan. That's why like it's a
yeah,
new argument.
yeah. Uh,
Like you see it in chat, Ryan. Like he just presented a brand new scan, and that's why I'm bringing up like this brand new argument.
the orange swipe. I see
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
He just sent that in chat right now. So like that's a complete brand new argument. So I have to do a brand new response. So
Okay, yeah, keep going.
yeah, so that's why I'm presenting this new thing. We're about Tanjiro like isn't fully evolved here because he gets burned by the sun completely. Clearly, there's some form of weakness that he hasn't fully absorbed the blood of Muzan or something like that. Given that fact, and because of that, I don't think this is the strongest Muzan. Sorry, the strongest DKT we see here, or the strongest DKT that surpassed Muzan here. So I want some extra evidence on why it would be the case that this DKT is as strong as the one that like um fights after he's conquered the sun.
Okay, so like your initial points just weren't responding to like really anything I was saying. So like A, I wasn't just simply saying they have similar anatomic configurations. I was actually saying that their configurations are such that I actually consider the whips to be a part of the configuration. So I don't know why you were distinguishing that. That was actually one of my pettier points, and that you actually didn't even respond to my main points. But that aside, like also when it comes to the like when you're saying that you're just trying to show that there's reason for you to be skeptical if they have similar configurations, I can grant that there may be some reason for you to be skeptical. Okay, that doesn't matter. Right? I just think that there's stronger reason and support for you not being skeptical towards the claim, which I've already provided. If you have some additional reasons or some argument for your claim that you directly made earlier, which was that if they have anatomic or similar anatomic configurations, that's actually reason and that actually levies credence towards them having similar speed disparities between their bodies and their whips, that actually itself needs an argument. I've clarified that about for the third time now. We haven't seen any sort of argument for that, right? You can keep claiming that you're not making a claim there, but presumably that is something that could be true or false. So what that means is that it is a proposition, right? It is obviously a
Hold
claim
on,
that you're making.
I'm not affirming
Now,
the
when it
proposition
comes
though.
to now when it does come to, I mean, you were, but when it does come to the additional point that you made or the response towards the other thing, if you're just asking for a reason to think that, oh wait, well actually, I guess I'll address the other thing. So you wanted to say that basically they're like the fact that I guess initially was being burnt by the sun gives reasons to think that some of his features hadn't fully saturated or locked into the point to where he was. So we actually reasonably could question whether his speed was at such a level to where it was. Well, I would just say we actually have reason to think and independent reason to know it and think that there would be some sort of what's it called? Basically connection between Muzan and Tanjiro related to like the fact that both of them, or the fact that one of them can survive the sun because Muzan commented additionally that you will conquer the sun, right? So this is actually something that could be expected and corroborated for, which gives us additional reason to think that there would be this disparity. When it comes to his speed or his strength, Muzan didn't say you're going to surpass me in strength or speed, right? Which would give us additional reason to think that he is eventually going to get faster or stronger or anything of this nature while he's in DKT form, right? That conclusion actually would need additional support. So basically what I'm pointing to, and just to be clear, what I'm saying is that when you're asking me for additional reason for why it wouldn't be the case, what's it called, that his speed actually increased to the point where when Giyuu initially interfered, Tanjiro was just simply slower. That question itself raises a question. Why would we assert at any point that we have good reason to think, what's it called, that there would even be a plausible chance of his speed increasing? I don't have
Sure.
any independent reason to
Yeah,
think that.
I
I
can
don't
give you the
think
reasoning.
we have any independent reason to think that.
Yeah.
And I think that
So
that's obviously different from the sun point. So go ahead.
yes, yeah, I get the difference from some point, and the reason why I brought that up is because I just want to explain to you like that's the source of his strength. So the blood gives him a multitude of stuff. Given that Tanjiro here wasn't as strong, I think it's pretty like inferable that Tanjiro here just wasn't as strong as he was pre like becoming a demon and stuff, like just physically. And we know that just Muzan's blood does make you physically faster and stronger. This is a pretty established concept just throughout Demon Slayer, not just in this instant. We know that lower moons become upper moons and like lower moons move up in the ranks,
Is it
like
okay if
getting
I can clarify something? I'm
yeah, go
talking
for it.
about when he was within his DKT form, not prior.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just talking about like why like it's inferable that this Tundra here like just got faster, and I'm explaining to you the reason for that is because of like Muzan's blood, and I was claiming that I don't think he fully like absorbed Muzan's blood at this point in time because of the fact that he hadn't conquered the sun yet, which was sourced by Muzan's blood. This is stated by Muzan. He tells him like you're gonna take my blood, you're gonna conquer the sun, and that's something that's an effect of the cause of him like absorbing the blood. And given that's the case, another effect caused by the blood is just a disparity in strength and speed. And given he didn't get the first effect, I'm confused on why like it shouldn't be plausible he didn't get the second effect either. And because of that, that's my claim for why I think he got slower. And then furthermore, about the first part about like the anatomy and stuff and why you think that's on point, I kind of actually just disagree with that because for one, I wasn't affirming anything. Yeah, it is a proposition about whether the back whips are faster or slower, and yeah, it is either true or false. But I'm not affirming a TVA on it, like a truth value. And because of that, I'm not like really like in the burden here to prove that point. That's kind of what I've been trying to explain to you. And the onus just falls on you to prove like the disparity between the strength and speed just being identical to Tandra himself and stuff like that. And because of that, I'm just kind of confused here. Like,
Okay, so I mean, I don't. Yeah, there's a few issues with that. Okay, I'll just like make this quick. So like, for one, we actually don't have any reason to think that he hadn't absorbed the blood fully. Muzan never stated once you absorb my blood, then you will conquer the sun. Right? Verbatim, he was just stating that you will conquer the sun, and he made additional comments of him having his blood. He didn't say you will do X because of Y. He just made the statement you will have X and you will have Y. So we actually don't have reason to think that the causal roles that are at play here would be the blood absorption if he did conquer the sun. And then even if we were to grant that, funnily enough, that also doesn't levy any kinds of reason that that has any particular connection to the other abilities, given the fact that presumably him having fangs, him growing his left arm back, and these other things are also byproducts of him having Muzan's blood, right? And obviously those things kicked in. So there's no reason why we'd have to think that the speed wouldn't kick in immediately. And if you're just saying, well, we have no reason to think that it would kick in immediately, I've already given you additional questions that are raised by that initial question of why we would think that this is even like plausible. And I don't think you establishing, well, there was some certain that there's a connection between the blood absorption and the fact that you conquered the sun. I don't think that levies any sort of plausibility to that because that claim itself is also just additionally unjustified. Okay, and then additionally, if you're making a claim, this point is it just really irritated me. So it doesn't make sense to affirm a truth value. That doesn't make any fucking sense. When you say that you have a claim, right, any sort of proposition P immediately has two potential truth values, being T, right, has true, or being F has
yes,
false. When you're saying that it is in fact, when you're saying that it is in fact the case that from their anatomic similarities that does levy plausibility and credence towards the proposition that they do have at least relative or equivalent speed disparities, you
not
are
my
making
claim.
a claim, right? That is a claim, right? You are
No,
additionally saying that this is true, that proposition. Because in the case that you were simply saying you were agnostic about it, you wouldn't say, I think this is the case, right? Typically, we don't say, I think something is the case if we're agnostic about it. And presumably,
I
you
didn't
wouldn't be
say
saying it's
that.
false either. Because if in the case that you were saying it's false, you'd actually be saying, yeah, the claim I think it's false, or the claim I think that the fact that there is these similarities between their anatomy and that levies credence to think that their speed disparities would be similar, you'd be saying that claim is additionally false. And that presumably isn't the thing either. So presumably you are saying the claim is true that you yourself, Zizo, do in fact think that the similarities between the physical configurations levies rationality and credence towards your point that, that would imply speed disparities between those sorts of things, right? Presumably that is your claim. Now, if you want to say it's not, that's fine. I think that's just going to look worse because presumably that'd be an important point to make
Okay.
against me. But yeah.
Yeah, let me respond to this. For one, Ryan, I literally clarified this for you and I addressed you directly and I explained to you the foundation of my claim. I was literally saying that those pieces of information are why I do think like it's pretty okay for me to be skeptical here. And I was just telling him like my skepticism wasn't baseless. I wasn't making the claim that if this is the case, then it should be the case inductively, like that the conclusion should be what Archie's not believing.
That's the claim I'm talking about. Like that's the claim I think you made.
But I just clarified it for you, and like I'll clarify it again. Like it's just about skepticism, and like you just haven't proven the point that you're trying to prove. And
Yeah, I get that, but I'm saying skepticism. Like, I mean, I don't, Okay, this shouldn't really even have to be explained. But skepticism is not saying, well, I think there are these considerations, so I think you need to demonstrate this, right? skepticism, when you say you're a skeptic, that means you actually don't have the necessary acquainted facts or access to the given
I know
facts
that.
in which would grant you. So when you're
I know that.
saying, so when you're making an inductive case, do you think
I'm
do you
not.
think skeptics can make?
I'm
You're not
not.
making an inductive case.
No,
You're
like
not
that's literally
saying that
what you cut me off
from the
as I was
similarities.
clarifying. You cut me off as I was
So
clarifying it for you.
you're not saying from the
No,
similarities that we can
no, I
infer
was
that
what
I
I
didn't
was
even finish
doing.
my sentence. What are you saying no to?
That I'm making an inductive case, like completely no. Like I'll explain to you what I was doing.
I didn't say completely no, and you already said no to the initial thing. I was saying I was asking a different question. Wait, so you aren't saying that from just making observations about the physical similarities that we can imply something about their speed disparities? You're not saying that at all?
No, I was saying that from those observations, that's the basis for my skepticism, not the speed disparities.
What's the basis for your skepticism?
The basis for my skepticism is that if one person who's very similar to Muzan, his back whips are not similar to his body or his thigh whips at all, then I'm confused here on how we're gonna fill the gap between Tanjiro and his back whips and like how they affect his body and how fast they're between his body. All I'm doing here is I'm just using that to show you there's an absence of evidence or some some absence in logic, and there's a leap in your logic, and
This is
that's why I
so
don't think it
bad.
proves the point.
Wait, real quick. This in chat. You don't think this is a claim, right?
If one person who's similar to M, whose styles are similar, he's confused how they fill the gap and how they affect their body and XYZ.
Yeah, just you could just like fill in the XYZ and fill in M. M just stands for Muzon and XYZ stands for the rest of what you said. You don't think this is a claim right here? I
I'm
just want to
not.
be clear on the record.
That's not what I'm saying. You're still kind of confused on
What?
it. No, no, that's not the claim.
All right, got fair.
I'm not saying that.
I
Oh
can
yeah,
conclude if
like
you want.
I mean yeah, like anyways, like Nani said we had 10 minutes like 7 minutes ago. So
No,
like
I genuinely don't want to continue this. It's hurting my brain. We can.
yeah, I mean yeah,
So
we can
like,
speak to Ryan, yeah.
oh my bad. Oh
Like
no, it's more. It sounded like Archie made a claim. You gave skepticism, and he asked you. Well, just
Yeah,
keep
I
going.
just
Hold
asked an
on.
additional question about the skepticism. The thing he
yeah,
said was supposed to be his basis for the skepticism. I asked why we'd have good reason to think that the conditional was true. He just never gave any reason. In fact, he just
the
backtracked and said,
condition
"Well,
for the
that's just the
Muzan
basis of
stuff.
my skepticism." No, that is a claim, but I'm not going to argue about you for what's a claim or not because the rec already heard it and you're being delusional. But yeah, we can conclude if
I mean yeah, like but yeah, I can conclude. Also like I can give like the final piece of the manga panel where like Tanjiro says, I mean Muzan just says, oh if it's the case that like you get the blood, like then like you'll conquer the sun, blah 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 blah.
yeah,
So
we can quickly argue on that. That's fine. Just
we have 2 minutes though, so like do
I
you
guess
just
you
want to
can.
drop? I guess like maybe like we can make that point a non-factor and just argue upon like the skepticism stuff, and like that's kind of like the gist of it. I think
I
that's
don't think
fine.
you. Well, the issue is I don't think you understand what skepticism is or what a
Skeptic-
proposition is.
Skepticism is just the case that you don't know whether the proposition is true or false. Correct?
Well, that's more of agnosticism.
I mean,
Basically, you
Skepticism just
have
means
some
that you
form of
have
claim and reason. Oh, sorry.
skepticism. No, skepticism just means that you have a suspicion against a claim.
sure. I mean, isn't that still like the same thing? Like your
So
suspicions.
you can. So if you have, for example, if someone asks you, are all the number is the number of stars in the universe even, and maybe you just don't have the accessible facts needed to render a judgment on that, such that you say you don't know. That doesn't mean you're suspicious against the claim. That just means you don't have a judgment on it. Now, if
All
you were
right,
to
so
say, well, actually, I don't think that's the case because of X, Y, Z. I actually have my suspicions against that. I don't know about that. That would be a skeptic attitude, but you don't have to have that kind of attitude to just be agnostic. But we don't even
I
have to
mean,
argue over the definition of skeptic or not. I just don't think that you understand what a skeptic is or much about truth values and propositions.
so you don't. Okay, so like, what about agnosticism? Like, do you think that was agnostic too, or no?
Towards what, Clem?
Towards the claim that Tanjiro's speed and like his body like just wouldn't tell like the relativity point. Like, just that's what I was kind of agnostic or skeptic about because I do kind of I can treat
Oh,
them
I don't.
interchangeably.
Maybe you were because that's not the claim I was making. So maybe you actually were. I don't know. I didn't
Okay,
mention
so
anything about entailment.
I mean, I think we could just conclude here. Like, I know you didn't say verbatim, like
Sure.
that. There's that implicit like connection there. Like, I just think like I mean,
Not
either
at
way,
all.
our time limit is done. So like, I just think we should conclude to the judge.
That's completely fine.
Right,
You
and
can
Ryan,
go
if you
ahead. I'm
want,
gonna
you
go
can
listen.
start recording. Yeah. So just to conclude, there was a lot of points there meshed up, and I just think that I gave enough contentions to